Tonight, several major stories as we come on the air. The hurricane slamming into the U.S. Tornado watches and warnings right now. Rain and wind all the way up to Detroit, then into the Northeast. Also breaking tonight, President Biden defiant, saying he's staying in. And reports a Parkinson specialist has visited the White House 8 times in 8 months. And the harrowing moments on board a United flight, passengers told to brace. First tonight, hurricane warnings and watches in effect right now as Hurricane Beryl makes landfall in Texas. Up to 9 inches of rain, wind gusts topping 90 miles per hour. Tonight, the death toll rising, at least 3 people killed, including a 73-year-old grandmother when a tree came down on her home. Water rescues underway, multiple confirmed tornadoes tonight. The system bringing heavy rain and winds all the way up to Detroit, then over into the Northeast. Also tonight, President Biden insisting, quote, "I am not going anywhere." The president now daring Democrats who doubt him to challenge him at the convention. And tonight, the White House now pressed about a Parkinson's expert who visited the White House 8 times, including once meeting with the president's doctor. The brutal heat wave, nearly 150 million Americans under heat alerts coast to coast. Record temperatures, Palm Springs hitting 124 degrees. And tonight in New York City, recording its hottest day of the year and news coming in. A bridge here stuck malfunctioning because of the heat. Harrowing moments for passengers on board a United flight leaving Los Angeles. The Boeing 757 losing one of its main landing gear tires. Passengers being told to brace. Overseas tonight, the war in Ukraine. Graphic images coming in this evening. A children's hospital in Kyiv hit by a Russian airstrike. Russia targeting several major cities, dozens of people killed. And all of this with President Zelensky due in the U.S. to address NATO this week. There is news of a shark attack tonight. A 14-year-old boy attacked while at a junior lifeguard camp. And we take you back to Notre Dame in Paris. You'll remember our exclusive tour of the cathedral after that awful fire. Tonight, our James Longman taking us back. You have to see it now.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to be back with all of you at home. Several major stories tonight. President Biden defiant, saying he is not going anywhere. The White House also answering questions tonight about a Parkinson's expert who visited the White House multiple times. We'll have that in a moment here. First, the hurricane slamming the U.S., making landfall in Texas, and now the storms all the way up through the country, all the way to Detroit expected, and then into the Northeast. Hurricane Beryl striking the Gulf Coast of Texas near Matagorda early this morning, a Cat 1 hurricane. The storm has been deadly. Tornado warnings and watches right now as this now moves across several states. Beryl hammering the coast with torrential rains and damaging winds, widespread flooding and life-threatening storm surge. Beryl, in fact, was still a hurricane when it reached Houston, up to 9 inches of rain in a matter of hours. A harrowing rescue. Look at this live television. Firefighters lowering a life jacket there to a man trapped on top of his flooded truck. Tonight, at least 3 people have been killed in this storm, and here is the track this evening. Now a tropical storm still on the move all the way up to the Great Lakes and across into the Northeast. We're going to take you through the forecast, the timing of this, the rain and winds ahead for millions of Americans. And ABC's Victor Oquendo leading us off tonight from Houston.
Tonight, millions of families and businesses are without power as South Texas takes a direct and deadly hit from Hurricane Beryl. Beryl, fueled by the abnormally warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, slamming ashore around 4 a.m. southwest of Houston as a Category 1 hurricane with sustained winds over 80 miles an hour and feet of storm surge.
Oh, wow.
AccuWeather's Aaron Jajack right there as Beryl came ashore.
Just north of the coast, power has been knocked out here in Sargent, Texas. Absolutely strongest winds yet right now.
Transformers exploding like fireworks in Jamaica Beach as Beryl barreled inland toward Galveston.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall 2 hours ago in Matagorda, Texas. That's south of where we are in Galveston, now in the dirty side of the storm. That is the most dangerous part. The rain has been relentless for hours, and these winds are only getting stronger.
Drone video revealing the devastation. Boats, campers, roofs peeled from homes. Beryl still a formidable Cat 1 hurricane as the eyewall approached Houston, dumping nearly 9 inches of rain in spots.
Shelter in place. We're in an emergency. We're in a rescue mode. Life safety.
This traffic camera shaking in the wind as firefighters use a ladder truck to rescue a man from the roof of his car.
He's got the life jacket on, and they're lifting him out of the water. Look at that.
Our station, KTRK, right there as they hoist him out of the fast-moving water and onto dry land. Northeast of the city, a 73-year-old grandmother was killed when a tree fell on her home, one of at least 3 deaths. Beryl, the first hurricane to make landfall in Texas in 3 years, after tearing a week-long path of destruction through the Caribbean, killing at least 11 people. There are downed trees like these all over Houston that have knocked out power. Officials warning they don't know how long it will take to fully restore it. So while Beryl has moved on, the danger has not. Houston is under a heat advisory tomorrow with the heat index near 100 in the coming days. David?
Just an extraordinary scene behind you there, Victor. Thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Lee Goldberg of WABC tracking what's still coming from this storm and, of course, the record-breaking heat in this country. First, though, Lee, the remnants of this hurricane, where is it headed next?
David, how about from Texas all the way to Toronto? It's essentially transitioning into a tropical rainstorm, a flash flood threat, and also a tornado threat. There's been warnings all afternoon long. Tornado watches go into Arkansas, and then the flood watches up to St. Louis, which will get hammered tomorrow. They already have severe thunderstorm warnings there tonight. So it spends Arkansas tonight, and then look at that, by Wednesday morning from the south side of Chicago all the way to Detroit, torrential rainfall. Then it will head into parts of Canada, but also the Northeast, places like Rochester, Watertown to Plattsburgh, and fronts may actually bring some heavy rain to the I-95 corridor. Along the track of the remnants, 3 to 5 inches of rain, and a tropical feed could bring an inch or 2 to the Mid-Atlantic and the I-95 corridor with storms Thursday and Friday. And if you're not impacted by Beryl, you're broiling. Heat alerts out west. They've broken all-time record highs over the weekend out west. That continues all week long, and it stays steamy here in the Northeast as well. Heat advisories extended into Wednesday. David?
A country of extremes for sure. Lee Goldberg tonight. Lee, thank you. We turn to the other major story this evening. President Biden insisting, quote, "I am not going anywhere," saying he will stay in the race, daring Democrats who doubt him to challenge him at the convention. And tonight, the White House now being pressed about a Parkinson's expert who visited the White House 8 times, including once meeting with the president's doctor. And the First Lady today, Jill Biden, and her moment with reporters. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce.
President Biden tonight defiant and fighting back, adamant he's in this race for the long haul.
The bottom line here is that we're not going anywhere. I am not going anywhere.
Biden today aggressively rejecting calls to drop out and challenging his Democratic doubters.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
But the White House today forced to face questions about whether they're being honest with the American people about the president's health after visitor logs show a neurologist, a Parkinson's expert, visited the White House 8 times within an 8-month span, including meeting once with the president's doctor.
So to give you some answers here, has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on.
But the White House refusing to say if this neurologist ever evaluated the president or consulted on his care during his visits to the White House Residence Clinic, citing privacy concerns.
Certainly could clear this all up just by saying what he was doing here and if it was connected to the president, yes or no?
I am not going to confirm a particular neurologist, anybody.
The same neurologist also appeared on the visitor logs during the Obama years more than 24 times. The White House today not providing a reason for the recent visits. The press secretary adamant Biden has only been evaluated by a neurologist 3 times, each as part of his regular annual physicals.
Just to be clear, yes or no, has his physician seen a reason to reevaluate him for Parkinson's since the February physical?
No, the comprehensive report that you all have stands.
The president himself out of the public eye today. The First Lady out rallying crowds in North Carolina and Florida.
For all the talk out there about this race, Joe has made it clear that he's all in.
The calls for her husband to get out of the race clearly getting under her skin.
Dr. Biden, do you have any message to House Democrats who are calling for your husband to drop out of the race? How are you feeling about the state of the race?
All right, ladies. Why are you screaming at me? You know me. Don't scream at me. Just let me talk.
This as the president scrambles to contain the defections on Capitol Hill, telling Democrats in a letter he's staying in this race, adding the question of how to move forward has been well aired for over a week now, and it's time for it to end.
So let's bring in Mary Bruce live at the White House tonight. Mary, of course, all eyes on the president again tomorrow when he hosts the NATO summit in Washington. Of course, world leaders will be here. And then on Thursday, a live news conference and a president who says he's staying in this race.
And David, this will be his first solo press conference in 8 months. Look, these next few days are critical. The president's goal is to show the American people that he is up to the task. He will be out there on the world stage at this NATO summit and then fielding reporters' questions. He is well aware how high the stakes are, David.
Mary, thank you. Mary, as you know, world leaders will be watching right up and close here in Washington. So will Congress tonight. What several leading Democrats told us when we asked what the president should do, pass the torch or stay in the race. Rachel Scott up on the Hill.
President Biden is urging Democratic lawmakers to put their worries aside and get behind his campaign. But tonight, a growing number of senators say they're not ready to do that. From Senator Sherrod Brown in Ohio.
I've talked to people across Ohio. They have legitimate questions about whether the president should continue his campaign. And I'll keep listening to people.
To Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, who heads up the powerful Intelligence Committee and says now is the time for conversations about the strongest path forward, adding, I believe it's incumbent on the president to more aggressively make his case to the American people. In Montana, Senator Jon Tester locked in a tough re-election battle, saying President Biden has got to prove to the American people, including me, that he's up for the job for another 4 years. On Capitol Hill, I tried to get an answer from one of the president's 2 home state senators, Tom Carper of Delaware.
Do you think he should step aside? If I don't go inside, I have people waiting for me, and I'm in trouble.
It's a simple yes or no, sir.
Thank you.
Carper's office later telling us, I have no interest in walking away from Biden today or tomorrow or the day after that. Many Democrats saying the next few days are crucial for the president.
Bottom line is just wait till this week, give it another week. It's only been a week, and what, 3 days, 3 or 4 days?
You said give it another week, so are you keeping an open mind on whether you want to see the president step aside in this race?
My thing is to find out what direction that the president is going to go. He's said very clearly what he wants to do and what he will do.
What do you want to see from him?
Well, I think that basically, we'll see he's very active now and everything. That's good.
But late today, Congressman Adam Smith of Washington telling me time's up and the president's got to drop out.
I wish he would make the right decision, but since he hasn't, and because of my bedrock belief that we can do better with a different candidate, not just a little better, a lot better, I got to speak up and just make the plea.
Only a handful of House Democrats have asked President Biden to step aside. So far, no Senate Democrat has gone that far. Tomorrow will be a big day here on Capitol Hill. Senate and House Democrats will meet behind closed doors with their caucus. Meanwhile, President Biden ramping up his outreach to lawmakers tonight, meeting virtually with the Congressional Black Caucus, some of his staunchest supporters. And just moments ago, the Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says that he still supports President Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket, telling reporters his position has not changed. David.
A really pivotal week ahead, and Rachel, you and Mary will be covering it for us. Thank you, Rachel. We turn now to the harrowing moments for passengers on board a United flight leaving Los Angeles, the Boeing 757 losing one of its main landing gear tires. In fact, passengers were told to brace. Here's Mola Lenghi.
On the heels of a record-setting weekend for air travel, tonight the FAA and United Airlines are launching an investigation after one of its passenger planes lost a tire during takeoff.
Just to give you a heads up, the tower call, they think that you lost a tire on the takeoff.
They believe it was the left side aft inner main landing gear tire that fell off.
The incident occurring this morning while the Denver-bound Boeing 757, packed with 181 passengers and crew, was leaving Los Angeles. Video from inside the cabin showing the harrowing moments, the plane successfully landing hours later. You can hear the crew telling passengers to brace. Back in March, a rear tire of another United flight falling off moments after takeoff.
It literally just happened.
The wheel landing in a parking lot, slamming into several cars and damaging a fence.
Well, David, United has been under extensive supervision by the FAA after a series of maintenance issues throughout this year. Meanwhile, tonight, that 29-year-old plane involved in this latest incident, that remains grounded, David.
Mola Lenghi tonight. Thank you, Mola. Overseas, and the horrific images coming in tonight in the war in Ukraine, Russia launching at least 40 missiles, one missile falling on a children's hospital in Kyiv, just as President Zelensky is set to be here in the U.S. for the NATO summit with President Biden. Here's Ian Pannell tonight, and we warn you, the images are disturbing.
Tonight, a devastating attack across Ukraine.
The busy morning rush hour broken by dozens of Russian missiles targeting the capital Kyiv and 4 other cities. Seen in these videos circulating online, leaving more than 30 dead, over 170 wounded. And here, Putin's army deliberately striking the youngest and weakest of all. At Ukraine's biggest children's hospital. Heartbreaking scenes as the sick youngsters, some with wounds from the blast, were led to safety. Rescuers and dozens of volunteers, including medics wearing scrubs and lab coats, forming a human chain, combing frantically through the rubble for survivors. As children undergoing life-saving treatment were forced to sit on the sidewalk, IVs still in their arms. We visited this hospital many times. It gives critical care to kids with cancer, disease, as well as war wounds.
David, this attack appears to be timed to send a clear message to President Biden and those other NATO leaders meeting with Zelensky, calling for strong action. David?
Horrific images tonight. Ian Pannell, good to have you, Ian. Back here in the U.S., a controversial plea deal for Boeing, agreeing to plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States after the 2018 crash in Indonesia and 2019 crash in Ethiopia. The deal allowing them to avoid a trial stemming from the investigation into the pair of deadly crashes that killed 346 people. Tonight, the families of many of the victims are outraged, blasting this agreement. They say justice is being denied. When we come back here tonight, here in New York City, the images coming in right now, a bridge stuck open, malfunctioning because of the heat. Also news of a shark attack coming in. A 14-year-old boy has been attacked, and the comedic actor pleading guilty for his role on January 6th. Here in New York tonight, the extreme heat being blamed for a bridge being stuck open at this hour across the Harlem River between Manhattan and the Bronx. The 3rd Avenue Bridge overheating, malfunctioning, and now locked in that open position right over the water. You can see the boat spraying water onto the bridge, trying to cool the equipment down. Tonight, reports of a shark attack in Volusia County, Florida. A 14-year-old boy bitten on the leg at Ponce Inlet while at junior lifeguard camp. They say he accidentally dove onto a 5-foot black-tipped shark. It's the county's 3rd reported shark attack in less than a week. When we come back here tonight, the comedic actor pleading guilty now for his actions on January 6th. And tonight we take you back to Notre Dame Cathedral after the fire, and you have to see it now. To the Nixon, actor Jay Johnston has pleaded guilty for his role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Johnston, known for roles in Bob's Burgers, Arrested Development, and the movie Anchorman. Prosecutors accusing him of using a stolen police shield to attack officers. He now faces up to 5 years in prison. When we come back here tonight, you'll remember we took you inside Notre Dame right after that awful fire. Tonight, our James Longman is about to take you back inside how far they've come. Finally tonight, rebuilding Notre Dame. James Longman takes us inside.
It was 5 years ago. The world watched in horror as Notre Dame's iconic spire crashed in flame through its roof. David was the first journalist invited in just a month after the fire. He saw the charred remains of that spire inside the cathedral.
This is the top of the spire right here. That was the moment the world gasped in horror.
Yes, this is the moment when everybody's people.
Rain coming through the giant hole it left behind. We've been following the restoration of the cathedral for years now. ABC News has been granted rare access to Paris's 800-year-old treasure. In 2021, we saw the work begin. The huge task of closing that gaping hole seemed almost impossible. And then last year, we climbed our way to the top and saw the fresh timbers laid.
You can see that bunch of flowers. That's a gift from the carpenters to say that they're done with this part.
Today, we're back inside Notre Dame. And that roof, it's now almost completely rebuilt.
This roof, when I was last here, you could only see the timbers. Now, it's 2/3 covered in that lead. It is so close to being done.
We have finished the work of wood to build the spire. And now we work on the roof with lead.
Only the finishing touches remain, right down to the last lick of gold leaf. And we remember the spectacular rose stained glass window. It survived the fire, but was blackened with ash. This is that iconic window today, the light flooding back into Notre Dame once more.
David, the cathedral is set to reopen in December, and when it does, it'll have a new security system in place in the roof to help prevent fires. It's split into 4 sections so that if a fire does break out, it won't spread. Plus, new sprinklers. David?
Spectacular visit inside. James, thank you, and what a journey to bring it back. I'm David Muir. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Great to be back with you. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.